Before we even saw a new group of Ghostbusters appear in Ghostbusters Afterlife and its new sequel, Frozen Empire, we actually got an animated series with a new kind of Ghostbusters. It is a shame they would have been pretty cool to see them in the movie though, but well, we'll just have to stick with this anime follow up to the Real Ghostbusters. As I give to you in this episode, do you remember as I talk about Extreme Ghostbusters? Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews presents Do You Remember? Greetings, my fellow YouTubers. I'm Joel, the Big D to you. This is Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. Back again with another episode of my series, Do You Remember? Today I'm going to be talking about a very underrated and rarely remembered animated series and what have you. Well, sort of factually rarely remembered, but maybe not 110%. But I'm going to say this is a show I never thought would be good and what have you, but it's pretty fair enough considering it's a follow up to a great 80s animated series a lot of us 80s kids and maybe early 90s kids grew up with. Well, it was a continuation to the animated spin-off of a 1984 film we all know and love known as Ghostbusters. Yes, the Ghostbusters tradition actually continued long before we even got Ghostbusters Afterlife and Frozen Empire, which is now playing, which I just got back from seeing, by the way, today. You will get my spoiler free review of it tomorrow night, okay? So, anyway, but this show focuses on a different group of young Ghostbusters. So, now without further ado, I ask, do you remember Extreme Ghostbusters? Extreme Ghostbusters was an animated series spun off from the movie Ghostbusters and a continuation to the Real Ghostbusters animated series. It originally premiered in syndication in September of 1997, produced by Columbia TriStar Television along with Bobot Entertainment, airing on their new block known as BKN, the Bobot Kids Network. Now, in some TV listings, the show was called Ghostbusters Dark. In this program, a team of college-aged Ghostbusters are led into action by veteran Ghostbuster Egon Spengler. It has the bit of horror comedy and supernatural feel like its predecessor, The Real Ghostbusters, which of course was a recent hit for ABC. Anyway, here's the story. Taking place several years after the end of The Real Ghostbusters, a lack of supernatural activity has put the Ghostbusters out of business again. The members have gone their separate ways except for Egon, who still lives in the firehouse, monitors the containment unit, and takes care of Slimer, as well as furthering his education and teaching a class on the paranormal at a local college. When ghosts begin to reappear, Egon is forced to recruit 4 students as the new Ghostbusters. Kylie Griffin, a goth genius and expert on occultism, Eduardo Rivera, a cynical Latino slacker, Garrett Miller, a young wheelchair athlete, and Roland Jackson, a studious African American machinery whiz. The cast also includes Janine Melnitz, the Ghostbuster secretary who returns to the job, and of course Slimer, the hungry green ghost himself. The series follows the next generation of Ghostbusters who track down and capture ghosts throughout New York City and occasionally beyond the sea. A supernatural comedy following the trend set by its predecessor, it has an updated, darker feel exemplified by a gritty punk-inspired variation of its theme song, which was originally done by Ray Parker Jr., as it was performed by voice actor Jim Cummings, who of course certainly no stranger, who of course voiced numerous characters, especially for Disney, performed and what have you. Throughout the series, the new team learns to work together despite their differences. Janine's largely unrequited affection for Egon, the unresolved love-hate relationship between Kylie and Eduardo, and the Ghostbusters' frequent clashes with authority figures who are skeptical about their work. Anyway, now when this came out, I actually heard of the show, but we didn't. But unfortunately, we did not have an affiliate to carry it. Not even our Fox affiliate, who had aired Bobot's former block of programming, Amazing Adventures, on weekends, never did air this. And that's probably because with the rise of the WB network, and not even our UPN affiliate was even carrying this. So I failed to catch this. However, I did manage to catch this later on Sci-Fi. Yes, yes, Sci-Fi actually aired BKN later on, and it was part of their Extreme block. Now, this along with several of their recent series that aired on the Amazing Adventures block, such as Mighty Max, Double Dragon, and several others were shown as well. Anyway, this show actually aired 5 days a week, and after a total of 40 episodes produced and aired, the show ended. Anyway, now I've seen most of the series, but not a whole lot, and what have you. Now, while this was one of a few sequels to of a 1980s cartoon series, while Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles opted for series relaunches, but Extreme Ghostbusters opted for a more realistic passage of time. They had Maurice LaMarche brought back on board to do Egon, but unfortunately, Frank Welker and Laura Summer did not return as Slimer and Janine. And their characters were voiced by, let's see, Pat Music, who of course has done numerous voice acting work, including voicing Tony in Steven Spielberg and Don Bluth's animated flick An American Tail, while Slimer was voiced by Billy West, who would later go on to voice Woody Woodpecker a couple of years later. Let's see here. The series had more explicit tie-ins to the real Ghostbusters as it continued. For example, one episode, Slimer's Sacrifice, referenced Egon entering the containment unit in the real Ghostbusters episode, Xmas Marks the Spot, and Grundlesque is a sequel of the real Ghostbusters episode, The Grundle, bringing back the villain and revealing that Kylie lost a friend during its first attack. Finally, the two-part series finale, Back in the Saddle, featured the remaining original Ghostbusters joining their successors. That included Dave Coulier, the second voice of Peter, Buster Jones, the second voice of Winston, and even though he didn't do Slimer, Frank Welker was brought back on board to do Ray for this two-part finale. And I really thought that was pretty good because, well, the series originally started out with a two-part episode as well, which was called Darkness at Noon. Anyway, now Extreme Ghostbusters also aired internationally and what have you. 2 years after its run, Columbia TriStar Home Video actually released the show on video cassette in 3 volumes. The first volume had the two-part pilot episode, Darkness at Noon, while Volume 2 had The Infernal Machine and Grundlesque, while Volume 3 had the two-part finale, Back in the Saddle. Now, there was a two-disc set with the first 13 episodes of the series released in Australia, as well as the UK, Germany, Italy, and the Netherlands. However, the UK release was edited to remove scenes of horror and threat. The series was re-released in the UK in June of 2016 with the first 13 episodes. Now, the show had never been seen again, but however, some episodes are available on YouTube. In 2021, right about before Ghostbusters Afterlife was released, episodes were uploaded weekly to the official Ghostbusters YouTube channel in high definition. Just more recently this week, Sony Home Entertainment, Sony Pictures Home Entertainment, my apologies, just more recently released the complete series in a 9-disc DVD set. Anyway, Now, in a series retrospective, SFX said that the consensus that any extension of the Ghostbusters brand requires a whole new team of newbies to take on the mantle, and that the series was its first application. But the series' failure, blamed by its showrunners on poor U.S. scheduling and the decline of non educational children's programming in favor of networks such as Fox Kids, Kids WB, and cable channels, although some American stations carried the series after school, was seen by SFX as demonstrating that the appeal of Ghostbusters was only partially the concept, and that it's the characters we love above all must be a sobering thought for anyone charged with rebooting Ghostbusters again. The series was also noted for aiming at a slightly more adolescent audience with a tougher edge, clearly intended to test the boundaries of child friendly horror, which of course we had recently got that in the form of Goosebumps on the Fox network. The Eduardo Kylie relationship did push the edge of the rings. There was also a series of action figures done by Trendmasters. Just about all the characters, well, except for Janine and unfortunately Garrett, didn't have action figures. Roland, Eduardo, Kylie, several ghosts, and updated versions of Egon and Ecto 1 were released. Although collectors have found a prototype figure that went unreleased. Deluxe versions of the four Ghostbusters figures were also released, featuring electronic light and sound, a role-playing proton pack and plasma blaster, and various other things were released alongside the action figures. There was also, of course, Sony, which had their own, well, which was at the height of the internet, actually had a website featuring a flash tour of the Firehouse headquarters, character profiles, and just about everything you could find. There was also three video games based on the series that were released. One for the Game Boy Color, Extreme Ghostbusters Code Ecto 1. Well, no, wait, that was for Game Boy Advance. The Extreme Ghostbusters game was Game Boy Color. My mistake, I didn't see that. And finally, Extreme Ghostbusters The Ultimate Invasion for the PlayStation. There's also two PC games, Extreme Ghostbusters Zap the Ghost and Extreme Ghostbusters Creativity Center. Yeah, so anyway, Extreme Ghostbusters, I think it's a pretty underrated show and what have you. But if you really want to see what happens after the events of the real Ghostbusters, and I'd say you're more than welcome to check this out. Now, aside from some of the voices I've already mentioned, which were Maurice LaMarche, Billy West, and Pat Music, for the rest of the voice acting cast, voicing Eduardo is Rio Romano, who would also voice Spider-Man in the Spider-Man games Activision released originally for the PlayStation, as well as Batman in 2004's The Batman. Kylie Griffin was voiced by Tara Strong, although she was credited as Tara Sheridan, who this would be the following year, I believe, would go on to be back in the role of Bubbles when Cartoon Network picked up a full series of the Powerpuff Girls. Roland Jackson was voiced by future AFV host and former child slash teen star Alfonso Ribeiro, who of course recently appeared on The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, which happened to have been canceled just before this. Garrett is voiced by Jason Marsden, who had lent his voice to numerous cartoons and what have you. Of course, and he was recently the voice of Max Goof in the very well. Let me ease down a little bit and find now. Yeah, he had recently voiced Max in a Goofy movie. He also trying to find this here. Well, I just know he did lots of animated voices and what have you. He had recently lent his voice to the Sonic the Hedgehog Saturday AM series, Mighty Max, as well as Project Geeker, which that was a recent hit Sony Pictures Animation. And he had more recently lent his voice to Disney's Jungle Cubs first season, where he voiced the young Shere Khan and Louie. And he was also the voice of Kevin in 7 episodes of Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears animated series as well. He also went on to do work in The Fairly Odd Parents and Shaolin Showdown. But anyway, after a total of 40 episodes that were produced and aired, Extreme Ghostbusters went off the air. But of course, now you can find it on YouTube, and you can also find the complete series, which was just now released this past week on DVD. Let me give you a look at the characters, just in case if you've never seen them before. Here's a look at the group and what have you. There's an Egon, there's Slimer in the background. You see Garrett, there's Roland, there's Kylie, and there's Eduardo. Here's a look at the Extreme Ghostbusters along with Peter, Winston, and Ray, plus Egon in the series finale, what they look like in the series finale. So as I've said before, I think if you've never seen Extreme Ghostbusters, I'd say give it a try. If you like the real Ghostbusters, you may like this. I know it would have been pretty cool if they would have been in a movie, but very unlikely that'll happen. But hey, we can dream, can't we? So that's it. Now you know about Extreme Ghostbusters. What did you think of this show? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like the video, click the like button, subscribe, and be a part of the Big D Nation. And stay tuned. Next time, I'll be bringing to you my Saturday morning TV log of another underrated and possibly forgotten tune, The Hardy Boys. So I hope you enjoy this, and if you did, check out my reviews for these Ghostbusters films. In the upper left-hand corner is my re-review of the original from 1984. The upper right-hand corner is my re-review of Ghostbusters 2 from 1989. And the bottom left-hand corner is my spoiler-free review of Ghostbusters Afterlife from 2021. And the bottom right-hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe. If you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., as well as Do You Remember, then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching, and I'm not sure when I'll be doing another episode of this series. Just stay tuned. So until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.